Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 18 of the FCPA Compliance and Ethics Report. Today, I would like to go into a little commentary, and I'd like to go into a little commentary on the Walmart enforcement action. For those of you who do not know the facts, it's alleged that Walmart has engaged in bribery and corruption in Mexico, which allowed them to construct certain stores, which led to a large amount of Walmart's profits coming from Mexico. Walmart has engaged various counsel to investigate allegations of bribery and corruption on a worldwide basis, and that's ongoing. But last week there was a post in the FCPA blog by Michael Schur that asked some very pointed and direct questions about the Walmart investigation and any enforcement action going forward. And it really crystallized my thinking about some of the things that a business can engage in when they find themselves in an FCPA investigation going forward. If you've never read Michael Schur's posts, they are always provocative. They are always directly to the point, and he did so in this case. The blog was entitled An Open Letter to the Department of Justice and the SEC regarding the Walmart investigation, and some of the questions Michael asks were, did Walmart engage in an intentional obstruction of an FCPA violation by its internal compliance professionals? Did Walmart have and implement a corrupt plan to garner licenses to do business in Mexico? Were the compliance professionals who tried to investigate this for Walmart retaliated against in any way? Was there an intentional cover-up by senior management of Walmart? Are the books and records of Walmart accurate now from the 2005 and through 2012 timeframe because of profits which were generated through the bribery and corruption in Mexico? And as to the Department of Justice and SEC, Mr. Schur wants to know if they will prosecute any individuals criminally, whether or not they will make clear in any settlement or resolution documents that the retaliation against compliance professionals will not be tolerated going forward. And ultimately, he ends with asking if Walmart will be allowed to retain the profits it generated from its corrupt actions in Mexico, if there were any. It's been estimated that 25% of all Walmart's profits from 2005 forward came out of its Mexico subsidiary, so that could be quite a number, a large number of profits. Michael's very pointed questions and indeed provocative questions focus on the Department of Justice, the internal investigation, the actions or enforcement actions rather by the DOJ or SEC going forward. But I'd like to take a look at it from a little bit different angle. And I have to credit Matt Ellis, author of the FCPA Americas blog, for really crystallizing, or at least starting my thinking on this area. He had a very, very good blog post last year in which he challenged Walmart to think big and go big. It was entitled Walmart Go Big on Compliance. And in this blog post, Matt talked about the very size of Walmart as allowing it to be a vehicle for anti-corruption going forward. So he talked about things like Walmart going into a new country and partnering with local municipalities to help set up reporting centers in some of their stores for allegations of bribery and corruption. He talked about Walmart using its massive size to help train landlords, for instance, about how not to pay a bribe and how to report an allegation of bribery and corruption in their country. He really used the size of Walmart to ask it to think about how it could go big in compliance and really make a difference. I have thought quite a bit about Matt's post, and I compliment him on that post often because I believe it's really a way of thinking about business solutions to a business problem. What Walmart did or did not do in the past is in the past. It's done. The investigation, I think, will bring out whatever facts they will bear. And Walmart may or may not suffer consequences from those past actions and those past facts. But one of the things that is clear in any analysis of an enforcement action is three questions. What did you do to prevent it? What did you do to detect it? And what did you do after you found out about it? Or prevention, detection, and remediation. One of the things that I think Walmart can do is remediate. They could certainly go big on compliance, but I'd like to suggest another direction that perhaps Walmart can take. And that is to be a leader in compliance, and be a leader in compliance on a global, worldwide basis. I think that this would help give them credit with the Department of Justice. I think that the FCPA guidance specifically talks about companies working with others in their specific industries to help fight bribery and corruption. And indeed, Eric Holder today just gave a speech about the fight against corruption. So that is something that I think would resonate with the Department of Justice. I think it would give Walmart some credit and credibility with the Department of Justice going forward. And more importantly, I think it would help to have an American company lead the fight against anti-corruption and anti-bribery. So let me go through some of the things that I've asked Walmart to consider for leadership. And I would ask you, if your company is involved in any FCPA investigation, are there some of these things that you can do for your company and present them to the Department of Justice as examples of your remediation? So Walmart, be a leader in the retail industry. Whatever trade association you belong to, international retailers, whatever it may be called, I would urge you to go to this trade association and help set up training programs for members. Help put together a trade association code of conduct that trade association members will not engage in bribery and corruption. As a leader, as the leader in retail sales, you can be a leader in compliance within your industry. So work through your trade organization. Work to use the tools that are available to you to put the message of compliance out to those in the retail industry. Help give them training about what the FCPA is and how not to violate the FCPA. Put on seminars within the retail industry on what's an effective compliance program. Go to the site about I paid a bribe and use that information. Put on training about how not to pay bribes going forward. There's a variety of things that you can do within your industry. You're a leader in this industry, and I would urge you to use that leadership position to go forward. Next, lead with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has led the charge for U.S. businesses who want to amend the FCPA. The primary amendment they would like is to add an affirmative defense in the form of a compliance defense to the FCPA. Walmart had a compliance program, yet these allegations of bribery and corruption have bubbled up from Mexico and maybe other places. There is no difficulty, I think, in understanding what goes into a compliance program. The Department of Justice has made clear that in the FCPA guidance, listing the 10 hallmarks of an effective compliance program, in every enforcement action, they list out what they believe are the elements or key elements of a compliance program going forward. So there's really no difficulty, I think, in understanding what the department's position is on having a compliance program. But having a compliance program as an affirmative defense, I think, would not help move compliance forward. And I think you can make that statement to the Chamber of Commerce, and you can be a leader in this area. And the same with the Chamber's position of who is a foreign governmental official or what is an instrumentality under the Act. I think the definitions are now available in judicial rulings. By the time you hear this, we may have an 11th Circuit ruling on that issue. Nevertheless, I don't think that's a difficult question, and that you can lead the Chamber or go to the Chamber and say, we think the way to follow the FCPA or make the FCPA stronger or make the FCPA better is to simply follow the act itself. So you can lead at the chamber as well. Next, Walmart. Lead at the board of directors. The FCPA professor has written that he believes that the Walmart matter is in large part a failure of corporate governance. While I disagree with his analysis on that, I think he does raise a very good point about what was the board's involvement. What did the board of directors know? And what does the board of directors need to know going forward? I would ask you to take a leadership position for what board of directors should do regarding compliance programs going forward. This would require that you would train your board of directors on the specifics of the FCPA, but also that you would bring in specific professionals who could be a part of your board for compliance. So, retired auditor, for instance, in addition to being on the audit committee, could be on the compliance committee. You could have a retired chief compliance officer. The chief compliance officer of Microsoft recently retired. You could bring in the FCPA professor to give you some guidance on corporate governance. Jeff Kaplan could come talk to you about the legal requirements and legal responsibilities of your board of directors. But take that leadership as a board and then go to whatever board of director trade groups you may be a part of, NACD or others, and help those organizations understand that a part of an effective compliance program is to have the board involved. The board does not have to be involved in the weeds of your compliance program, but they need to understand their role. If there is an allegation of bribery, that needs to be brought to the board. I understand that things in 2004 and 2005 may be different than 2012 and 2013. But that's the reality of what was required then and what's required now, is that if there's substantive allegations of bribery and corruption, the board of directors needs to know about this. So Walmart, I would challenge you to lead at the board of directors as well. And then for the next part, lead by working with the Department of Justice. The DOJ is in a unique position regarding the FCPA, I think. They're certainly the regulators. They're certainly the lawyers for the U.S. government who enforce the FCPA. But in many ways, the Department of Justice will work with companies, and I think the FCPA guidance that they put out jointly with the SEC is a prime example of that. The DOJ consistently communicates what it thinks should go into a best practices compliance program. And they consistently talk about working together to forward compliance. Once again, I would point to Attorney General Holder today, once again speaking about the overall fight against compliance. Clearly, you're in the middle of enforcement action, and clearly, or at least it's possible, the sanctions could be leveled against your company as well. But you can work with the Department of Justice, and by that I mean take these plans to the department, sit down with the department, and say these are some of the things that we would like to do. We would like to go to our trade association. We would like to talk to the Chamber of Commerce. We would like to be to lead at the board of directors level. We would like you, the Department of Justice, as the regulators, to understand that we are taking the leadership position as the world's largest retailer to do this. Should part of this be their discussions regarding any proposed fine and penalty and enforcement action? I would say absolutely, because it goes to the commitment of compliance and the commitment of remediation in any compliance program. So that I think that it's certainly appropriate to have discussions with both the Department of Justice and the SEC to help those regulatory bodies and regulatory groups understand how this company is moving forward with remediation. And last, I would ask Walmart to consider leading at the Chief Compliance Officer position. The last, I believe, communications we had about the role of the CCO within Walmart is that role had been folded into the legal department. I would urge Walmart to lead by splitting that role out and having the CCO co-equal in authority within the company to the general counsel, report directly to the board or the president of the company, and not be within the legal department. I think it would show the commitment of Walmart to the compliance function. I think it would give greater authority to the chief compliance officer, and I think that it would raise within the company the level of awareness of compliance if the chief compliance officer was split out from the general counsel and given basically co-equal status within the company. So what I would really like to emphasize here is, if you're in a compliance enforcement action, FCPA enforcement action, there are things that you can do. There are things that are business solutions to getting into some of these legal problems. The Department of Justice has made clear that they will give substantive credit to not only cooperation, not only self-disclosure, but working to remediate the problems that the underlying issues which gave rise to the problems to begin with. And this remediation component can drive down the sanctions against you in terms of the monetary fines or penalties, and or the absolute most stringent, which is having a corporate monitor. So with Walmart, I would urge you to be a leader, because you are a leader and you are big. And I would ask you to think big, like Matt Ellis says. But be a leader in compliance. Use this opportunity to help educate not only Walmart, but educate the retail industry and indeed the rest of us about what a compliance program could and should look like, given your resources. But if you're in a smaller company, you can use some of these business solutions too. You can go to your industry and trade group. You can try to organize. You can try to put things together. You can work to implement a business solution to some of these problems. So I would ask you to consider the above. I've written about this today, so you can see some more detail in my thoughts on my blog post. I would love to hear from you if you have any comments, or there are other things that you think Walmart could or should do to be a leader. So with that, I'm Tom Fox. You can reach me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you will tune in for future episodes. Thank you very much.